Again, this video we're just going to have a chat about offshore fishing and the different types of winds. What's good, bad and well, ugly. I have been asked by a few people just to give a rundown on the best winds for fishing off the coast here. Some of you will agree with what I'm going to say, some won't, but that's okay. I'm just going to give you a rundown what works for me and what I've seen over the years and put together, okay? So we'll get into it. Got the old trusty board over here. I'll just turn the camera around. Okay. Now guys, I'm going to just... You should be able to see that, I hope. You can. Got my old trusty ruler. Let's get into it. So basically we've got the seaway here, okay? We've got north, south, east, west, or you all know that. What a lot of people don't know is north is not actually straight up. People think north straight up, the seaway and go straight up to north. It's not, it's often a bit of an angle. The north's actually out here, okay? So I've got north, you can see there's a slight angle. So northerly winds, we'll start off with north winds. North winds you mainly get over summer. You can get them all year round, but they're mainly a summer thing. And what they do out here is when we get a lot of northerly winds over summer, you can say it rolls the water over you. Okay, and before I get into that, I've got to explain something. Down here you got a little weird picture. You can see this red line, that's like, that's the coastline. Gold Coast is here, that little asterisk, that's the coast. And you just see, we're in a bit of a bay. People don't realise we're actually in a bit of a bay here on the Gold Coast. This blue line here, EAC, so that's East Australian Current. So basically that's a continental shelf or 50s and outwards. And that's from like Moreton down to like Byron or somewhere. This whole area here is like a big bay. So when we're talking about north winds and rolling the water over, we get north winds over summer. And because we're out of the main current, the main EAC, we're out of it, the north winds will actually what we call roll it over, roll the water over. So basically it turns it cold and green, as a lot of guys you would have seen over summer. And when it does that, it actually gets a bit harder to fish. But the little blacks don't mind it, like it doesn't get super cold, it's still 20 odd degrees, but it just drops a couple of degrees and goes green. And it does make fishing a little bit harder, especially for dolphin fish and wahoo and things. For dolphin fish and wahoo, you've got to generally go to the 36s or the 50s to find some blue water, so find some cleaner water and go trawling or live baiting for them. Okay, they don't like the colder green stuff. So that's why we always have the summer running out wider. But staying in close is going to work. The little black marlin are there. They're in it. They don't mind the colder green water or the blue water. They're in all of it. So if you want to chase marlin, don't be too concerned about the cold green water. And saying that, and that goes for mackerel too. So over summer, when we got the northerly winds, the colder, like the water, green water, the mackerel are in it too. Alright guys, so don't panic about the green water for mackerel or marlin. They're still there. But saying that, it does, when you get a few northerlies like days in a row, a few northerlies like in a row, a few days in a row, it does slow down fishing, so it does make it harder. Doesn't mean the fish aren't there, doesn't mean the fish aren't going to bite. You just got to work harder for them, okay? So, yeah, north winds aren't the best winds for here. Okay, turn the water cold, a bit green, a bit colder, and slows the fishing down. And what else it does is makes the water very choppy, especially in the afternoon. Like over summer, you head out early morning, it's quite nice, but 10 o'clock onwards, and the northerlies start getting up through the day, and by afternoon they're quite strong, they're 20 odd knots. It's not big swell, but short, sharp chop. So know your boat, know where you're going, and always have a bit of a plan for the afternoon, so you can usually, or hopefully, can run home with the northerly behind you. Otherwise, you're going to be in for a very long, wet, bumpy ride home, because it's very short, sharp chop in the afternoons. Okay, next one we go to east winds. East winds out off the coast here, you'll get all year round. Mainly over winter, but all year round. And easterly winds aren't a bad wind for fishing. Sorry guys, I just got to sound like somebody's outside the shed. Easterly ones aren't a bad wind for fishing. I don't mind easterlies. I actually catch quite a few jewies and stuff on easterlies. I don't mind it. The only downside to easterly winds is, well, very choppy usually. Usually when you get easterly like northeast, east to southeast, It's usually very choppy with a bit of swell. It can push a bit of swell through, and it's usually very short, sharp chop. Usually it's very choppy. Okay, but the fish bite okay. And the other thing about easterlies, they can be a pain in the butt to anchor in. If the current's going south or north or something and you get an easterly wind, the boat's going to sit on really awkward positions. So you've got to really think about the reef, where you want to sit, where you're going to anchor. You just got to really think about it, because easterlies will put you on a really weird angle when you're anchoring. And I always talk about fishing the outside edge or the bottom edge. When it's easterlies, you can't fish the outside edge because you're going to be getting blown back over the reef. So generally I like to go to the southern edge, find a corner, think about where the boat's going to drift depending on how much current and the wind, and anchor that way in the bottom edge of the reef. It's just going to be a real pain to anchor in, that's all. Next one, we got the old southerlies. Like, this video is about to go live in a couple of days. At the moment we've got a southerly buster. It's been blowing 20 to 25 knots for a couple of days. We've got another week yet. Can't go fishing in that, because what that does is blow up the swell, makes the water really rough. No good for offshore fishing at all. When it's, you know, say it's 15 knots or above, don't worry about going out in southerlies. It can start getting quite nasty. When you get a really light southerly, like 5 knots to 5 knots, 10 knots, you go offshore, that's fine. Just make sure you read the forecast right. You don't want to be out in the middle of nowhere. If that picks up to 25 plus, it gets really nasty. But apart from the southerlies being stirring the water up, the southerlies will bring in the bigger swell. So keep that in mind, guys, when you're crossing bars and fishing in close. You get bigger swell. But what else it does is, we like southerly busters here on the east coast, because when you get the southerly busters like now, the strong southerly, what that's going to do is roll the water over the opposite way. So instead of the northerly winds rolling it one way to the cold and green, southerlies will actually bring the nice blue, clean, warmer water in close. So when you get them over summer, we love them because it brings all the water in close, nice warm water in close, blue water, and that's when we can get dolphin fish and wahoo and stuff right in close. And it seems to bring the mackerel on a better tube, and the marlin don't mind it either. So it's a good thing for that. At fishing after a southerly is really good. You can fish during them, but make sure they're a light southerly. Make sure you check the forecast, otherwise you can get yourself in a bit of trouble. So fishing wise, after a southerly is usually very good. Water's very clean and a little bit warmer, and it brings like dolphin fish and wahoo over summer. And winter, actually, it cleans up the water in winter too, which is very good, and it's very good for fishing. With the snapper and the jewies and the cobia, they don't mind it, but they don't mind the green water either. They're not that fussy. Okay, downside of southerlies, choppy, can get very rough, can bring in big swells if you get enough wind like we've got at the moment. I think that at the moment no one's going offshore. You wouldn't even think about going offshore. But next weekend when it drops, every man and his dog will be out there, and the fishing should be really good. Okay, so southerlies, just a warning with the southerlies, have a look at the weather, make sure it's not too bad, because it will bring in the swell. But after the southerlies go, it's really good fishing. Last one, guys, westerly winds. Here's probably one of the most dangerous winds, because a lot of people are new to fishing and boating, don't realise this. It is probably one of the most dangerous winds of all. Okay, a lot of people will head out the seaway or go to the beach and see and look, and the ocean will seem flat, calm, like beautiful and calm, which is fantastic. Looks great. But the danger with westerly winds when you're not used to going offshore and boating is the further you go out, the rougher it gets. Okay, and westerlies can be really nasty out wide. The ocean's fairly flat, but it's really short, sharp chop, and it can really do some damage to you and your boat if you don't know how to handle it, or if you go out too far, or even if you're in close and something breaks in your engine and you start drifting, you'll disappear offshore really quickly. So guys, if you're new to fishing, be wary of westerly winds. Great fishing in close, like the wrecks, the bait reefs, the wrecks. I love fishing westerly winds. Fish bite well. I love fishing for cobia and jewies and stuff on the close reefs and wrecks. I'd get a lot of fish over winter with westerly winds. But make sure your boat's running well. Make sure you know how to handle your boat. Make sure everything's running fine. If you come unstuck in a westerly wind and you get blown offshore, you're going to disappear out to sea very quickly. And the other thing is with a westerly, when you're driving offshore, the further you get out, it'll start getting choppier and choppier. Okay, just be wary of that, guys. Don't go too far out. Be wary of a westerly wind. Light westerly is beautiful. I must admit, I do go out in 20 knot plus westerlies because it keeps most people at bay. And I do have a lot of success fishing the close reefs and wrecks for jewfish and big cobia and snapper. But make sure your boat, your anchor, everything's up to scratch, guys, because you can get yourself into trouble with westerly winds quite easily. Okay, the other good thing about westerlies, the fish bite well. The fish bite really well on a westerly. It's very calm usually. It usually flattens out the swell. So if you want to go chasing tailor, like through the surf gutters, up off Stratty, westerly winds are the winds to do it. It'll be small swell, you can get near the gutters, have a cast. It's great. Or fish off the beach. It's beautiful and calm. It calms the swell down, it flattens the swell out. But you got to be careful. When you start heading out to the 24s, it starts getting rather choppy, depending on how rough the westerly is. The 36s and the 50s, out. Don't go. Don't even worry about it. You might run out there okay and bang away out there, but getting home, long, very wet, dangerous trip. Okay, so just be wary of the westerlies, guys. But fishing in close, very, very good. There's not much else to it, really. That's all I can say. That's just what I've noticed over the years. Just be cautious of westerlies and definitely southerlies. But southerlies you'll know what are coming because it's all over the news and the surf reports, and you'll know the swell's coming. So you usually get told about that. Westerly winds, no one tells you about westerly winds. Yeah, and if you go on the beach and see the flat calm, think, oh, I'm going to take the boat out. Just be wary. The further you go out, the rougher it gets, and it's very short, sharp chop. So be careful, okay, with a westerly. Northerly winds aren't too bad. Usually not much swell. They're just, 20 knots. It's white caps, short, sharp chop, niggly. More of a pain in the ass than anything else. And so easterly. So north and east winds I find a bit of a pain in the butt. Westerlies and southerlies I find really good fishing. But westerlies in close, southerlies after a big southerly blow like we've got at the moment, very good. So these two are usually nice clean water. North usually dirty water. East winds, if it's been north before, it'll stay dirty. If it was a southerly and then goes east, it usually stays clean for a while. So that can play on both. And another thing is too, that don't find the wind makes too much difference to the current out here. That's usually the time of year. So if you're worried about current, winter times are best. We don't get as much current out wider. It seems to slow down a bit. Okay, so 36 and the 50s. You still get a few days of hard current, but you get a lot more days with less current. But summertime out wider, you'll see a lot more current. That's why a lot of us don't bottom bash out wide and bait fish. It's not that the fish aren't there. It's just a lot more current. It's hard to fish. That's why we go trawling and stuff out wide. Trawling, drifting past the fads, and some days on the fads you'll notice you're screaming past with the current. It can be a raw pain. But I will say this: if the current's racing one way and you got a wind going the other way, it's like you got a current going roaring to the south, and all of a sudden you know there's a southerly buster coming up. Get the hell out of there, because those two mixing together can turn the sea very nasty, very, very quickly, guys. So just keep an eye on that and think about the current, the wind, and what it's going to do, because the sea can change at the drop of a hat. It really can. Yeah, that's about it. I think I've rambled on enough. In a few days, guys, I'm going to do another video on what I'm going to do is the species off the coast and basically the time of year to go catch them. Another guy asked me what's the best time of year to go chase a few different species. So that's the next video. Hope you hang around for that one. And once again, if you like these videos, hit the subscribe button, notification bell, as it really helped me out. Thanks, guys. I'll see you soon.